The Film Basement is filmed in sunny West Hartford, Connecticut, in front of a live studio audience.
Welcome to, for me at least, a fucking weird episode of The Filmmaker's Basement. I'm Brandon.
I'm Andrew.
And we're going to be talking about some of the movies we saw this week, in addition to playing a little game show later on. And the movie I saw this week, which I mentioned last week, was a movie called Barbarian. Traveling to Detroit for a job interview, a young woman, Georgina Campbell, books a rental home. But when she arrives late at night, she discovers that the house is double booked, and a strange man, Bill Skarsgård, is already staying there. Against her better judgment, she decides to spend the evening. Before long, mysterious sounds draw her to other parts of the house where terrifying discoveries prove there's a lot more for her to fear than just an unexpected house guest. So that only describes maybe the first 30 minutes of the movie, which is absolutely wild to me because there's so much more going on here. So right off the bat, this movie is kind of disturbing, at least for me it was watching it. There's a lot I actually really like about it, and I think that actually works even outside of the really weird and kind of messed up stuff that comes later on. I think just based on that alone, I can recommend it, because I think whoever worked on this did a really good job of making a horror that didn't necessarily need a monster to be scary, if that makes sense. I will also say, though, it was a very heavy watch for me, at least. I felt the movie kind of stuck with me for a few hours after I finished watching it. So definitely keep that in mind before getting into it. But I think this movie does a great job of showing how you can be scary without showing something scary, if that makes sense. It's incredibly suspenseful. For the first 40 minutes, there isn't really a bad guy or monster. It's more so two people exploring a house and uncovering really weird stuff as they go through the house. And they play this up really well. Specifically, the cinematography does a really good job of this. Whenever they're kind of doing these house explorations, the camera shots get really tight on the characters. And so in some scenes at least, they get really tight in the characters, which means you can't really see a lot of what's going on around them. Which means you're waiting there okay, something's going to happen to these people because this is so tight on them. We're going to see something, whatever, like that. And then we also get the opposite, where there's these really wide shots where you can see there should be something there. You're expecting something to run on in and get them or something like that. A good example would be cameras right up in their face, but there's huge empty space behind them. And you can just see everything. And you're looking at that there's going to be somebody who runs in and comes in and gets them or something. But it just doesn't happen for 40 minutes. Just nothing. And I'll be honest with you, I think that was the scariest part of the movie for me. was sitting there waiting, when is the scary stuff gonna happen? Because you keep trying to bring it up. It's clearly there. There's clearly something that's gonna happen, but I just don't know when. Additionally, the actors did a great job of delivering their performances. That genuinely, made me very scared for them. I do have some issues with how they were written, but I'll get to that a little bit later on. And the setting was just absolutely perfect for this kind of stuff. A great example of this was our main character. What's her name? I can't even remember it. But essentially, she goes into the basement because she's looking for the other dude who's staying there, because they kind of become friends in that early section of the film as they kind of defuse the situation. And she goes downstairs into the basement, and she notices there's this kind of rope that's sticking out of a shelf in the wall. So she pulls it, and a door opens out of this concrete wall into a dark hallway that you can't see anything down. It's just completely dark. The light goes in maybe a foot or two, and there's nothing beyond that. And it is absolutely terrifying. Especially when they keep going, they keep using the hallway and you keep finding out more stuff that's down there. And it's just so freaky what can be hiding in the darkness like that. So everything about the movie really plays into this aspect of we don't need to show you something scary to make you feel scared. That does come later on, of course. But at least initially it works so well. I do actually also, I kind of was thinking this the whole time. I do kind of wish there was a movie kind of like that, where it's just people exploring a really creepy house and there's not really anything out there scary. There's not a monster. It's just a really freaky house, because I think that would make a really good horror movie. because you don't need this movie is case in point. You don't need a monster all the time to be scary. Sometimes just setting itself is absolutely horrifying. I did enjoy it. The movie's kind of done in a non-linear way, where we are kind of like getting some flashbacks and learning things about the past, flashing forward a little bit to see other characters' perspectives on things. I thought they did a really good job of getting into that and giving you kind of pieces of information about what lurks below the house, so that you're not like too far ahead where you're kind of figuring everything out. But you're not like, it's not like you're being deprived all the information, so the ending is a complete surprise to you. You get bits and pieces here and there as they kind of stumble into things and figure things out and get flashbacks and all that stuff. And I really enjoyed that because it made the viewing a lot more interesting. Because every time I thought I knew something about what was happening, it turns out I didn't have the full picture of it. And then that was revealed to me. So I thought that was a really cool experience. The film definitely has like 3 distinctive parts though. And there's the name for name. The introduction of Tessa, essentially our main character, comes to this house, finds out it's double booked, all that stuff. After her section, which ends on a really fantastic note, you have the appearance of the property owner, because this is kind of like an Airbnb situation. And then we kind of get his backstory and how he's kind of connected to this house and all that. And then we kind of get this third section that's more of like an escape section. I don't really want to go into because it would just give too many spoilers for that. But like I said, each of those sections gives you new information on the overall story that after viewing it, I mean, it's really cool and interesting. I will say the part that annoyed me a lot was that the characters don't seem particularly genre savvy. I really don't like it when characters aren't like that, because I feel like this movie could have done a little bit better than that. Because they even call it out kind of towards the beginning. Because after that scene where like Tessa finds that dark... finds that long dark hallway, and she immediately says, nope, I'm not going down there. And then she ends up going down there eventually because she thinks something's going on. I can't remember why. She just got curious. Oh no, she was locked in there and she wanted to just kind of explore and find out more stuff about it. But that ends up causing huge issues for her later on, which just, I don't know. It's like once you discover something creepy that's happening down there and then something else happens, you think you'd want to just get the heck out of there and not deal with any of it. But I have no idea about that. There's a lot of moments like that where it just gets like, it's very frustrating watching the characters just like continue to do stupid stuff. And it's like, you've already seen how this goes bad for you. Like, why are you still here? Admittedly, I had this a lot initially while watching The Property Owner, because he is very this like stereotypical dude bro who like just has no social awareness whatsoever. But kind of reflecting on that, that's kind of his character. So like, why would he wouldn't think like going down a creepy hallway and finding like a murder room, for instance, is like weird. Dude's just excited to have more property in his house and all that kind of stuff. So it makes more sense for him, a little less sense for Tessa, and I kind of wish they played on more genre awareness more. But that's a different gripe. The ending is also incredibly strange compared to the rest of the film, and especially once you understand kind of how, again, everything, this background story kind of works. It doesn't really make a lot of sense the way we get in, how it unfolds. So I didn't particularly enjoy that. I thought that was kind of unfortunate given the rest of the film. There is also kind of a really big plot hole in regards to the house itself as like being an Airbnb, because that's how they're kind of like pitching it, is that it's this Airbnb he bought in this like really sketchy neighborhood. If this was an Airbnb for any amount of time, the amount of missing persons reports that would have been filed on the people and like living there would just be absolutely insane. Like, it just does not make sense that there were any people living here for any duration of time. Like, there'd be like dozens of missing or dead people like all around this place. So that, it's just something I keep thinking about, I keep going back to, that just doesn't hold up at all compared to the rest of the movie. And it's not even like you get the impression that it's a new property on the market. It feels lived in to a degree. Like, people have been here before and using it as a property. Even the property manager, the property owner, when he comes back, you get the implication that there have been multiple guests staying here. This isn't like a new property he's bought or anything like that. So that just did not hold up for me at all. It kind of took me out of it a little bit. I will say overall, I did like it, especially with, again, how it plays on horror, the kind of story that it's telling. I think it is compelling in its own way. It's definitely not for everyone. There's some really freaky stuff that starts happening towards like the middle and end of the movie. And the monster in particular kind of associated with this movie is very grotesque. So definitely take that going into it. I do think it's worth it though. And if you can kind of handle a more heavier film, I think it's definitely worth a recommend.
Yeah, I watched because I'm not a big fan of horror movies, but I'll watch like a synopsis review of the movie. So I watched that the other day when I saw it come out, and I was like, oh, this movie is like weird.
Yeah,
like,
it gets really strange.
Yeah,
and that's what I mean, like towards the end, where it's just like it just goes off the chain.
Yeah,
with explaining how, like, again, the world kind of works. But even besides that, like, the rest of the film is, I mean, it's made in a really cool way.
Yeah,
like
and it has a really weird jump cut in the middle.
Yeah, you're talking about when it goes like
when it goes
old
to Justin's Long character.
Yes, it's
so
very. But
it has a
kind of works
suspenseful part of part one, and then part two, it just jumps to a different area of the country, and you're just like, what?
Yeah, but then you kind of get his story and what's going on here, and it kind of works towards that. It also gives you a minute to like reset. Because it leaves you on a oh my god moment where you're just like, what just happened?
It gives you a story from what I gathered from it. It gives you a story of him, but like his story has nothing to do with the house. Like he's going through some like lawsuit trouble, and you're just like, wait, what? So is this important? Like
it kind of does, because I think one of the central themes of this movie is kind of, I don't know how to exactly describe it, but it's kind of like how we view, almost like, I guess, what's a good way of putting it? How we view people, I guess, is a good way of putting it, specifically men. Because you have in the beginning, when Tessa kind of finds out that this house is being occupied by somebody else, and she's immediately suspicious of him. Because, like, of course she is. It seems like it'd be a bunch of red flags. But as she kind of talks to the dude and she kind of understands more about him, she realizes this is just like a regular dude and it's just a really weird situation. But then you find out about Justin Long's character and that he essentially forced himself onto someone. And you find out like Tessa just kind of treats him like a normal person because she doesn't know this about him. It's just like she just treats him like this normal dude. She's like, oh my God, I have to save him, especially later in the film. Like, I have to help him, like he's here, he's in the situation with me. And it's I saw kind of a review on this, and it's kind of like how we kind of view men in that context, and how you just kind of can make assumptions about people without really knowing the full picture. So I think that's what it's trying to relate to specifically, because you also get that with one of the characters that's kind of responsible for how the house gets the way that it is. Everyone looks on this dude like he's just a regular Joe, like he's just a normal guy, and everyone helps him because he doesn't give that creepy vibe. But the second you get under his skin, he is a weirdo, and he is doing horrible things in that house. So I think it's playing off that. Again, I didn't see this as much while watching the movie. I saw because I saw a couple of reviews afterwards to kind of help me piece it together, and that's what I got out of those. So I think that's what it's trying to do there with the Justin Long thing. But I will also say it does give a good respite, because then it leaves you wondering what's happening, and then you also kind of get to wind down a bit and kind of process what you've just seen. Because it's a lot. It stacks on a lot towards the end of like the first 40 minutes.
Well, if you're into horror, then I guess
it's a well-made horror movie. Props to them. It's a really well-made and cool horror movie.
If you're into horror comedy, you should go watch The Menu, which is what I saw this week. And I had been excited about this movie for a little while, just because I enjoyed the premise and the trailers. And it was one of those movies that kind of stood out to me because I like a good thriller. And that's what seemed what it was like. It wasn't a horror movie, but it was like a thriller. A couple travels to Hawthorne, an exclusive restaurant on a remote island. Celebrity chef has prepared a lavish menu for the couple and other patrons, though it quickly becomes clear that the restaurant and chef are not what they seem. So this movie's great. Like it it's this restaurant on a private island, and they grow and they get everything from this island. So they raise their proteins on this island. They get their vegetables and they grow everything. They get stuff from the sea for those are their seafood dishes, and it's like completely lavish. And it follows 6 different groups of people. We see each group of people get on this boat to travel to the island. The main group that we follow is a young couple who the male is extremely into it, like into the experience, taking pictures of the food. The girl that he's with is not into it. Like, she's just like, this is weird. Why are you so into this food thing? It's just food kind of thing. But like, the male is obsessed with this head chef, and he wants to, try his food, and he wants to become friends with this chef at some point. Like, the entire movie, he accidentally knocks over a glass, and he's like, do you think chef is mad at me? And the woman's like, he doesn't care. Like, you're a customer. You have another group, which is a food critic and her editor, who have written about this chef before. You have an actor and his assistant, who's played by John Leguizamo, and he's awesome in this movie. And his character's name is just movie star. Like, you never know his actual name. But he's there because he's friends with the chef. Then you have 3 real douchey guys who are these like tech, like they work for this like high profile company, and they think they're entitled to everything kind of people. And then you have an older couple who goes to Hawthorne quite often. They're regulars at this restaurant. And then the final group of people is just one person. It's just an older woman who just continues to drink the entire time, and you don't really get any backstory on her except for halfway through the movie. But this fine dining experience only seats 12 people. Like, only 12 people are allowed to be there at like every day. And the workers, or the under chefs, the sous chefs and everything, they live on the island with the chef. So they live together. They're like a family, and it quickly devolves into what seems like a cult. Like, these people are obsessed with this head chef. Like their workers are, and the sous chefs and the bodyguards and the maitre d' and everything. They're very obsessed with this chef, and they'll do anything for him. And it's very, very cult like. But everyone that goes to this dinner was actually brought there for a reason. And it's because they affected this chef's work at some point in time.
That's so petty.
Yes. And I thought this was going to turn into like the way that I thought this was I thought it was going to devolve into some sort of the most dangerous game scenario. Which, if anyone doesn't know, the most dangerous game is when a bunch of people hunt people for sport, and that's where I thought all like the protein was coming from. But it wasn't and I think the best thing about this movie was that it was a 6-course meal. And each course, when it was brought out, had like a little gong went off, and like it was like a couple of them were like the beat, like a background of the beach, and it would say course or course 1 or course 2 or whatever. And then they would bring the food out, and as they're describing it, they would show it off like they would in a food TV show. You know how you have like a close up of the food, and it's like, it was the best thing, because it would show like a close up of the dish, and it would have a description at the top that would come up in the lettering would come up, and it was awesome. Like, I didn't expect that to like actually happen, and the food actually looked really good. Like,
I hope so.
Yeah, I guess I read about like some Michelin star chef was actually preparing some of the actual like dishes, and a lot of them were, you know, behind the movie magic. A lot of them were just props. So like the cast would be like, this actually looks really good, and you'd be like, yeah, but it's not edible. Like it's most of it's fake. Like, so but yeah, this movie's great. Like it's I try not to give too much away, because I don't want to give too much of the plot or why they're all there on the island. But something I can give. Right at the beginning of the movie, they start going into the restaurant. They get off the boat, and they give their name, and the maitre d' says, oh, like they all know their name, because they all memorized who they were. And they said, oh, Mr. whoever his name is, the main character, Nicholas Holt's character, and then she goes to the woman and goes, and this must be Miss whoever she said, and it was a completely different name than what her name was. So he was planning on bringing one girl to this restaurant, and then brought a different girl to this restaurant.
Oh, no.
And it was so awkward. I was just like, oh God, buddy, what are we doing? And
I
so
can see where the comedy comes in.
Yeah. Oh, and so there's, and so like the first half of this movie, they're trying to figure out who this woman is, and that trying to tell her that she doesn't belong with this group of people. Like, you weren't supposed to be here tonight. You're not supposed to be here. And the whole thing about the theatrical elements and the actual dishes is it plays a story in the chef's mind. And it's, you know, it's like, and going with the comedy aspect, like I just saw one of the quotes from it. It was, he was asking one of the patrons, and because we don't know why everyone's there until halfway through, and he just asked one of the patrons, like the movie star is like, what about her, and points to his assistant, and he's like, where did you go to school? The chef's like, where did you go to school? And she goes, Brown. He goes, student loans? She goes, no. And he goes, you're dying tonight. So like that was his reason that she was like with these people, was that like
fair enough,
she
dude.
went to Brown and
Fair
got
enough.
it fully paid for. It was just like, oh my God, this is great.
Oh man, I can't even begrudge him.
Yeah, it was great.
That is very funny, yeah.
There's a lot of parts where I found myself laughing at it, and it's really funny too, because I just found out yesterday that the film was produced by Adam McKay and Will Ferrell.
Oh, okay.
So
Tracks.
like there was your comedy aspect to it. So
It's so strange. I guess, to be fair, they're producing it doesn't mean they're as directly involved into it, because usually I don't find Will Ferrell movies funny, but I guess he, not directly into it.
Yeah,
so.
it's not. He didn't write it or direct it or anything. He just produced it.
Yeah.
So.
I also love how, what's his name, the head chef guy, because he's in a billion things. I think he was also on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, right?
No,
was he not?
That's Ralph Fiennes.
Ralph Fiennes, I'm thinking a different person then.
Ralph Fiennes is Voldemort from Harry Potter and
Okay.
Hades from the remake of Clash of the Titans.
Okay.
I have no idea who you're thinking of on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, because I watch that show all the time.
What's his name? The chief's husband. That's who I was thinking of. Wrong, different person entirely.
Yeah,
then.
no, that's a different person.
Yeah, different old guy with a pointy face.
Yeah.
Oh man, well it sounds good, which is awesome because that movie, the trailer looked fantastic for it. I'm also surprised to hear that it's a comedy too, because you get a little bit of that from the trailer, but not too much.
It's a little, like, you get a little bit like sprinkled in to it's more suspense thriller and like everything else, but like you do get that comedy aspect thrown into it a couple of scenes. So it's like you get a nice big plate of thriller with a little comedy sprinkled on top.
Oh, excellent. Well, I'm so glad this movie actually came out. I'm glad we've had a couple good movies recently like that, because I don't know. It's just nice to have some good stuff coming out. Good weird stuff like that too, because it definitely seems a little off the cuff. Private chef bringing a bunch of people to an island to murder them. Yeah, well, on that note, why don't we move on to everyone's favorite game show, Pilot Wings? Okay, so Andrew's played this game a million times, but for those who haven't, Pilot Wings is the game show where I pitch Andrew 3 TV show loglines. 2 of these are real shows that were pitched to real networks, and 1 of them is something that I made up. It is up to Andrew to suss out which is the fake one. So, number 1. 5 years ago, Hope Castile's fiancé was killed. This morning, she received a phone call from him. An epic love triangle set against the grounded secret world of magic, present in present-day New Orleans. 2. Bored and ignored, Charles Carter thought all he wanted was a simple life of delivering packages and collecting a steady paycheck. But when a mysterious package attracts the attention of the FBI and international art thieves, Charles finds himself enjoying the attention more than he thought. And 3. 20-something Kyle comes to Austin to finally convince his old best friend from camp they are perfect for each other. Unfortunately, she just got engaged. A lot of guys would give up. Kyle is not one of those guys. But, to Kyle's surprise, even though he comes to town looking for the one, he might end up leaving with much more than that. So, Andrew, out of those 3, which one do you think is the fake one?
Man, they all suck. Like, I can't suss out anything with any of these, like, because they're well no, like, I can, like, the thing about it is, like, a lot of, like, all of these have problems with how I perceive them in my brain. So, like, the first one just sounds like a Lifetime movie. Like, why would you make this into a show? And like, it goes from fiance killed to a love triangle in a secret world of magic. What? Okay. And then the second one directs the attention of the FBI and international art thieves. What? Okay. And then the third one also sounds like a Lifetime movie, except he sounds like a stalker. And
it sounds like the newest season of You.
Yeah. It's just like, also Austin throws me off because I don't know of any TV show that was based in Austin. As much as Austin is like a prolific town, I don't know. But I'm gonna go. Man, these all they're all awful. I'm gonna go with the second one just because, like, art thieves and FBI, and he's enjoying, like, nobody enjoys being interrogated by the FBI. So I'm gonna go with that one.
That one?
Yeah.
Well, shoot, that was the fake one.
All right, nice.
I more so meant like he was on the run from the FBI. I should have put that in there. That would have made more sense.
Oh, it's like he's enjoying.
No, it's like
chased by the FBI. Like what?
Yeah,
he's enjoying the attention by the FBI. That's so weird.
I should have put in more of a chase dialogue into there. But yeah, so the first one is called For Love, and of course, shockingly, it didn't get made.
No.
And the second one is called 25, and it was passed over for obvious reasons. Because he sound like he's
have to do with the show.
He's 25? Like a 20-something. I think that's the idea. It's like he's having a quarter life crisis or whatever. BS.
Oh, weird.
Oh man, I thought I had one that at least could disguise itself well.
I mean,
I was like, oh man,
all bad.
No page breaks this time. I've got this.
They were all terrible, and all of them could have been fake.
Yeah. Well, shoot. I'm gonna have to pick worse ones next week. Really, just slum it up. Give us something worse to find. I swear. But yeah. Well, on that note, why don't we talk about some actual movies that are coming out in the coming weeks? And there was something I wanted to see actually. Oh, that's it. Glass Onion, the new Knives Out movie. I really want to see that. I don't think it is.
I think I think it was pushed to Netflix, and it's gonna come off Netflix to go in theaters.
Time to check.
Because every time I see an ad for it, I see the Netflix.
Because it's in theaters now.
Okay.
Like my local theater showing it.
It either was on Netflix or is going to be on Netflix soon. I think it was on Netflix.
Oh, it is on. Is it? No, it's like I think you're right. It is coming to Netflix. It's not there yet.
Let's see.
So I guess they're doing like the theatrical run and then sending it over to Netflix. Regardless, I mean, I like the first Knives Out, so I'll give Rian Johnson another shot on this. It seems interesting. And then besides that, there was like one other thing I swear I wanted to see, and now I can't even remember what it is. It probably might have been The Menu.
There's that movie with David Harbour coming out that looks interesting called Violent Night, where Santa Claus meets Die Hard.
Oh my god. I cannot imagine that's going to be good. I just can't.
Sure we talked about it last week, but it's a movie where a group of mercenaries attack an estate of a wealthy family, and Santa Claus must step in to save the day.
Oh my god. That sounds like something I would make up for Pile of Wings.
It's rated R.
Of course it's rated R.
It's about, and the tagline is, "You better watch out."
Of course it is. Of course. Going for the bottom of the barrel.
The team isn't prepared for a surprise combatant. Santa Claus is on the grounds, and he's about to show you why this Nick is
of course. Saint. Absolutely, of course. Oh man, we got something. Let's see. It's Christmas again.
It was written by the team that is responsible for Sonic the Hedgehog.
Good golly goodness.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I can't remember. Maybe it was Strange World. Because I kept seeing trailers for that in theaters, and it's all right.
The Whale comes out in like a week and a half.
So that's going to be so good. I'm so ready to see The Whale.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That's going to be fantastic.
There's a movie called Float.
Yeah, I see that now, too. Horror movie. What is this?
Oh,
when a vlogger and her crew embark on their annual river float to commemorate the untimely loss of their friend, they are plunged into a life and death battle with a mysterious local, a sinister paranormal force, and their own fears. That is so much going on.
Weird.
That feels like one of those old, that feels like What You Did Last Summer kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. You know, Vlogger reminded me of a movie that I saw a trailer for during The Menu, and it was interesting because it's all filmed through the eyes of web cameras and phone cameras.
Didn't that come out like ages ago? What was it called?
Oh, you're thinking of that horror movie.
That horrible horror movie.
Yeah.
Came out.
This one's not a horror movie. This one is man, I can't remember the name of the movie, but I was like, oh, this looks interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But basically her mother gets kidnapped in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And is it called Missing? Yeah, it's called Missing.
Mm-hmm.
and there's apparently no summary for it yet, or like synopsis. But it's all filmed through webcam, phone cameras, and like television cameras. So like whenever there's something on the news that's being shown, it's being shown on the TV through the news cameras. But it looks interesting. Like her mother goes missing, and then like they find out that her stepfather isn't who he says he is. Oh no, that's right. They went to Colombia.
Okay.
The trailer's playing on my screen.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I mean, it's it's an interesting concept, I think.
Yeah, conceptually interesting. Again, that other horror movie that came out a really long time ago makes me a little bit suspicious of it. And it's also might be giving a little bit of pandemic movie, but like you said, I do like the concept. Conceptually, it sounds like a very cool idea. I just need to see the execution of it before,
Like there's a lot of scenes where she's on the computer filling out missing person forms. Like she's talking to people through her computer. It looks interesting. Yeah,
could be worth a shot. So. We'll see. I'm also very happy that we're also getting a bunch of new movies coming out that actually look interesting. At least for me, look interesting. This is a very exciting time to be watching movies. But yeah. Why don't we wrap this episode up here? Andrew, do you have anything you want to plug?
Nope.
I don't have anything I want to plug either. So I think we'll call this one quits for this week. Thank you all for listening to Filmmaker's Basement. I'm Brandon.
I'm Andrew.
And we will see you all next time. Thank you for listening.